Gabriel Hetland is an Associate Professor of Latin American, Caribbean, Latino and Latina Studies and Sociology at the University of Albany, and he joins us now live from New York. Thank you so much for being with us. So 8 more people killed in new attacks in international waters, again without evidence that those killed were linked to drug trafficking. It doesn't seem that the US is remotely deterred by the questions over the legality of that double tap strike in September.
No, it's certainly clear that the Trump administration plans to continue its aggressive policy towards Venezuela. As you've been noting in their stories, they've struck additional boats just this week. Last week, they seized a Venezuelan oil tanker. So they seem to be ramping up the pressure against Nicolás Maduro, despite the bipartisan pushback against their policies.
And the Pentagon's also deployed warships, a submarine, drones, fighter jets to the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, saying it's part of efforts to tackle drug smuggling. Is that really what's going on here?
Absolutely not. I mean, this is clearly an effort to intimidate Maduro, to try to get Maduro to leave Venezuela. The idea that this is about drugs just doesn't hold water. The vast majority of cocaine that comes from South America comes through the Eastern Pacific, not through the Caribbean. It doesn't pass through Venezuela. Almost all of the small amount of cocaine from South America that does pass through Venezuela ends up in Europe. And fentanyl, which is the main drug that the Trump administration has said it's concerned about, which is the main drug that actually causes overdose deaths in the United States, doesn't come from Venezuela at all. So the idea that this is about fighting drugs just doesn't make any sense. There's really no evidence to back that up. Instead, it really seems like it's a pressure campaign, a regime change operation against the Venezuelan government.
Given, Gabriel, the long history of US intervention in the region, how much does that history shape the reactions in the region to these ongoing strikes?
It's absolutely central. I mean, the U.S. has long treated Latin America as its backyard. It has had a very imperialist policy towards many Latin American countries, deposing presidents that are progressive and leftist and nationalist for decades and decades, going back to the 19th century with the Monroe Doctrine, which the Trump administration recently celebrated. So all of that is really relevant to what's happening now. And there's pushback from governments that are less closely allied with the United States. Colombia, Mexico, and Brazil in particular have been pushing back against the Trump administration. It's unclear how effective that is, but it's notable that despite all of the pressure, despite all of the aggression, Trump has not launched strikes inside Venezuela and has not moved towards any sort of U.S. invasion of Venezuela. So it's very aggressive, but there's certain lines that they haven't yet crossed, although it's unclear if they're unwilling to cross them or just waiting to do so.
And what do you make of Pete Hegseth there saying that that footage is not going to be released to the public, the footage being that of the double tap strike that we know killed survivors clinging to the boat back in September? What do you make of that decision?
I would ask the defense secretary, what are you hiding? Why are you unwilling to release this footage to the American public, to the global public? What is in it that is so embarrassing for the United States, that is illegal, that is immoral, that is unjustified? If there's footage that's showing a war crime, if one accepts the frankly preposterous idea that this is a war, and if it's not a war crime, if it's footage that's just showing, cold-blooded murder, then that's why they're not releasing it. So I think that it's untenable for them to sort of proclaim that it's too dangerous for the public to see. I don't see how it's particularly different than the footage they have released. It just suggests that they're embarrassed and they're not willing to stand by the conclusions people would draw if they saw the full footage.
Gabriel Hetland, Associate Professor at the University of Albany, joining us from New York there. Thank you so much for your time.
Happy to be here.